All right. Hi, everybody. So now it's going to get a little more complicated. So we're doing section 1.5, and this is investments involving regular payments. And this is on page 46. Now, I would quickly want to talk about what this concept is. Regular payments. When I take out a car loan, remember my car loan example up here? If I do a car loan, so in a car loan or a mortgage, stuff like that, you don't pay at the end, right? How often do you pay? You instead pay at regular intervals, usually a month, right? So you don't pay off the full lump sum right off the very end. Usually you kind of chip away at it. Here's $300. Here's $300. Here's $300. Here's $300, and so on and so forth here. So that's something that kind of happens here. Now, one thing I want to note is you're going to need either a graphing calculator, such as a TI-83. Now, there exists plenty of apps on your phone. Go to your app store and find one. Put in TI-83 in your app store and you will probably find one, okay? If you cannot find that, I'm also going to give you a couple options. Or you may use an emulator. What is an emulator? This right here is an emulator. Right here. So for example, here I can do, 8 times, oops, there. Uh, what's going on? Ha ha ha. I can do like 8 times 9 divided by 2, for example, right? So you have a calculator here. Or you may use a online calculator. Now, cool. I can use these learns. Where do I find these things? I don't know what to do. Right here. It's on here. Boom. Here's your TMV calculator. It's also right here. Boom. Here's how you download the TI-85 plus ROM. Sorry, TI-83. If I go to this website, let it load, you're going to get, there's a bunch of them. Read it carefully. The TI-83 plus ROM. Download it, okay? After you download that, you're going to go to wabbitemu.org. You're going to download this, okay? You're going to open it. You're going to go to File. You're going to go to Open. You're going to put in that ROM, okay? Ding, ding, ding. Full screen it. Now you have a ROM, okay? Now you have a working calculator, a working graph calculator on here. I'm going to primarily use this one here, but I will show a couple examples using all these other things, okay? So that is your responsibility. You need to do that. We are not going to send you one of those. They are very expensive, and we very rarely get them back. So you're not getting a physical one. You either need to use your phone, you need to acquire one yourself, or you need to use a couple of the other options that I am presenting to you here, okay? So that said, let's start talking about this stuff here. Why do we need these calculators? Why do I need these sophisticated, crazy calculators to do all of this stuff here? Well, I'm going to go to example 1 here. Look at this crap. This is a really easy one of it too. So for example, we're going to solve this using a couple calculators. So Darva is saving for a trip to Australia in 5 years. So she's going somewhere in 5 years. She plans to work on a student visa while she's there, so she needs only save enough money for a return flight and her expenses until she finds a job. So she deposits $500 into her savings account at the end of each 6-month period. So semi-annually, right? From what she earns as a server. The account earns 3.8% and it is compounded semi-annually. How much money will be in the account at the end of 5 years? And how much of this money will be earned interest? Complicated question, right? So first off, it's asking you to find a couple things. It's not just one easy answer. There are several things here. And two, this sucks. This sucks. Look at this. This is still the same thing, guys. This is still the same question. So we're going to show you how to do this stuff here. So first off here, so example 1, going to show you how to do this. So first off, what's our T? How long? 5 years. We know she's paying, so the payment now, we know she's doing $500. Specifically, she is paying $500, right? She is paying $500. That's going to come into play later. She's depositing $500. Depositing it. She's saving it. We know the interest rate is 3.8%. We know the N. The number of times it's compounded is how many times is it compounded? It's 5 years, but it's only done twice a year, right? 2 times 5 is 10. And we're trying to find not just like the present value, because P is kind of these $500 payments, right? The present value is going to change each time. So I'm going to kind of leave this blank. We're also trying to, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to find the investment here, right? So this is a really complicated thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that website. This is that website that I linked to you earlier. Now, if you go here, you can find a couple things. So first off, you're going to see there's a bunch of options here. If I go to the advanced version, which you need to do, there's first off mode. There's a couple of them. Now, almost everything's always going to be in the end. It very clearly specifies the end in this one. So just be aware of that. So first off, how much is she starting with? How much money is she starting this with? Read the question. $0. How much money is she paying? 500. Now, specifically though, what we're going to do is we're going to actually end up putting in negative 500. And so the reason here, guys, I'm putting negative 500 here is because you're paying the bill, right? You are losing that money. I know it's going into this investment here. It's a little weird, but just gonna roll with it, okay? Like I said, I know that's a little odd, but that's just what it is. So next thing here to kind of note. So first off, what was our interest rate? It was 3.8%, and the interest rate was that's the interest rate. But it is still annually. But one thing I want to note is the periods here are 10, which are semi-annually. And same thing. This compounding is happening semi-annually. I know this is a little weird. But anyways, I've done all this stuff. I put everything in, but I'm trying to find the future value, right? So if I do that, I pump that in, it's given me the future value, which is now the future value, which is A, is equal to $5,449.90. Does that check out with what they're saying? Yep. Now let's read the question carefully though, because I'm not done. So the question asks us, how much money will be at the end after 5 years? Check. There'll be $5,449 there at the end. But how much of this money will be earned interest? Well, how the heck do I figure that out? Well, think logically here. Think logically. The earned interest here, well, here's what I know. How do I find how much interest in the amount I've earned? I take the future value and I subtract the present value. Sorry, present value, if that makes sense, right? How much I invested, how much is in the future value, or rather, the principal. Now, but we don't know what the principal is, so we have to kind of deduce that. Now, here's what we do know. We know that every 6 months for 5 years, right? So twice a year for 5 years, she did $500 deposits. So simply put, well, that's 10 times of it happening for $500. Her principal was $5,000, right? So her earned interest is equal to $5,490.90. That's her future value subtracted by the $5,000. Her interest, very simply, is $449.90. Other check. Okay. So so that's kind of what we're doing here. Now, I'm going to stick with the same example though, and instead I'm going to use my calculator here. Now, there's a couple steps in order to be able to do this. I'll give you a second, load it up, pause the video, get it loaded up, make sure it's working right. You can see here I minimized it. Oh, it's not working anymore. It's not working anymore. It's not working anymore. So make sure it's working. Ding, ding, ding. Now it's working. So on your calculator, you're going to see a button here called Apps. Click that, and there's a financial. I want to access this financial thing, so I'm going to press 1. Now, there's a bunch of different options here that you can go use it to find. I want to use the solver component of it. Thus, I'm going to press 1 again. I'm going to agree with this menu. Now, you're going to notice these figures, right? Oh, N, I, present value, PMT, what's that? Like so on and so forth. There's a lot of different things here that we're trying to find. So N is the number of periods involved. And so what right in this case, what we are talking about, there's 5 years and it's done semi-annually, 2 periods per year. So this is going to be 10. Arrow key. Or you can use enter, I guess. Now, this is the interest rate as a percentage, which is 3.8%. Now, the present value is $0, right? I'm starting with $0. The PMT in this case is the payment, right? The payment. So $500. Sorry, negative 500. Again, important. Not minus 500, negative 500. There's difference here between these two of them, okay? So those are different figures. Next thing you're going to use here is your FV. This is future value. Now, this PV is payments per year, okay? So payments per year. Now, what's going to go here? Is it 2 or is it 500? It's 2. Okay? And then CY is the compound in periods per year, which is 2. It's semi-annually. Now, do I have everything here? That's good to go. Really look at it before you keep going. I'm trying to find my future value here, right? Which should be blank. So there is a little solve button near this enter. Now, most of the time in the calculator, you press enter, right? You don't do that in this case. You're going to go to the thing you're trying to find, which is future value, right? Present value was intentionally set at 0. I'm trying to find future value, so I'm going to move my little cursor to that. Now I'm going to use this solve thing here. Now, just like before, if I want the yellow stuff, I use the yellow button. If I want the green stuff, I use the green button. So I'm going to press alpha, enter, which is going to solve it for me. Now, if I do that, I can see that the future value here is $5,449.89. Hey, that matches the answer we just got here, right? So we know that this works. So I know this is a lot, and what I want you to do now is I want you to actually go to example 2. So this is example 2 on page 49. Page 49. And I want you to solve with your calculator, solve with the website, okay? I want you to solve it with both because they're different tools. They do the same task, but how you treat them is differently, okay? The only way you're going to memorize how you do this is by doing it a bunch. So you need to do it, all right? So read the question really carefully here. So Adam has made a $200 payment at the end of each year into an investment that earned 5%, and it is compounded annually. Blake, we have 2 different people here. So we have Adam and we have Blake. Made a single investment, one just lump sum at 5%, compounded annually. At the end of 5 years, their future values were equal. So, okay, so they have input it differently. So Adam, $200 at the end of every single year, 200, 200, 200, 200. So he's always chipping away at it. Whereas Blake just very start, I'm going to put in this much money. I'm just going to check out for 5 years and come back. Now, at the end of the 5 years, their future values were different. But what we're wanting to figure out is one, who earned more interest, which consequently means who had to put in less of their own money, if that makes sense. So what I want you to do is I want you to actually try solving this here. Pause the video, go through it all, try the tools, try and solve it, and then I'll come back with an explanation. All right, so pause the video. So 3, 2, 1. So I've put in some information here with Adam and Blake, but generally speaking, I'm going to start with Adam here. So, and I'm going to use my, I'm going to start with this one here. So a bunch of different things you could use. It's all fine. So present value, he started with $0, but at the end of every year, he dumped in $200, right? I don't know what the future value is. That's what I'm trying to find. His interest rate he had was 5%. This was compounded annually, which means there's total 5 periods, right? It's compounded annually. Same thing, compounded annually, so on and so forth. This rate here is never really going to change, just as an FYI, in case I mentioned that earlier. So again, I don't press reset, I press FE, and boom. So Adam, future value is $1,105.13. We know that Blake's future value is the same based on the question, right? Because it literally says that. So we now know the future values of it. So this is question A, right? Question A, what was their future value? Check. What principal amount did Blake invest 5 years ago? That's what we're really trying to discover. So we actually need to work backwards here a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that same website, right? Because I know that I now know the future value. I know the interest rate's the same. The period's the same. But we just know he's had a present value and no payment. So the payments are 0, and we're trying to find the present value, which we can see here is Blake did a lump sum principal of $869.90 here, right? So Blake did a payment and Adam did a payment here. Oh, sorry. Circle your final answers as always, right? Really good thing to get into here. Now for question C, what's it asking us here? Who earned more interest, and specifically, why did they earn more interest? So who earned more? So Adam, again, how do you figure out the earned interest? Your future value minus your principal. His future value minus P, right? His future value was $1,105.13 minus his principal, how much he paid. He did $200 times 5, he did $1,000, right? So that means his total interest was $1,105.13. Whereas Blake, he did 1,000, same amount, right? But he only had to invest $869.90. So he 1105.13 minus 869.90. So he earned $235.23 in interest. So simply put, who earned more interest? Blake earned more interest, right? But why did he earn more interest? Well, simply put, he for years 1, 2, 3, and 4, Blake had more money in there. So Blake just had, Blake had more money to calculate interest longer. At the end of year 1, Blake had $869 in there. Adam only had 200. Year 2, 400 versus 869. 600 versus 800, and so on and so forth, right? So Blake he had more money in there to benefit from the longer interest rates. It's that simple. Yeah. So at this point, I think you guys should be capable of answering everything here. Let me just double check. 300. Regular payments. I think you guys at this point are capable of answering everything here. And there are the examples. So just as before, guys, again, always put in our key ideas, our summary here. Very, very important. You do also have your ability here now with the apps and stuff. Let me get away. Okay. This one particularly isn't that helpful for you guys in this case, right? What's really going to be helpful for you instead are those apps and just, at this point, applying the concepts you already know versus some incredibly complex mathematical formulas. You're welcome to try and do it this way. You have calculators, guys. Use them. Okay, use them. So ending off here. So textbook again, 1.5, workbook 1.5, and assignment 1.5. Okay.